Hi everyone, can you hear me? Great. Let's get started. I'll just wait for one more minute. Yes, so we can start now. Hi everyone, thanks for joining the webinar today. My name is Himanshi Yaduvanshi and I'm a process and quality analyst at protocols.io. Today I'll be presenting our Getting Credit webinar. I'll be talk about how publishing your methods on protocols.io can make them citable and discoverable, which will enable you to get credit and recognition for your work you deserve. So there are some housekeepings. We will be recording this webinar. Maybe this, yeah. Yeah, we'll be recording this webinar today and you will receive a link to this recordings and these slides, maybe today or tomorrow. And you can also enable closed captioning and turn on the translation, which I will go over in the next slide. Q&A will be there at the end. So if you have any question during the webinar, please feel free to add them in the chat box. Also, we have survey in the end where you can give feedback and suggestions and suggest topics for the future webinars. I encourage you to check out the other webinars at protocols.io/webinars. Specifically, if you are new to protocols.io, you can check out the introduction webinar, as this webinar is not focused on the introduction and the functionality of the protocols.io. And if you have specific question, you can also request one-on-one demo at protocols.io/help/demo, uh, where either me or my colleagues from our team can help you out to resolve your queries. So as I mentioned, to enable the caption, please click on the show caption at the bottom of your screen. Upon clicking, you'll be prompted to select your caption language and captions will be auto translated. Like this, you can do it. So today I'll be focusing on the brief introduction to the protocols.io background. We'll be talk about the different ways to share and get recognition for your method development, and there will be a Q&A at the end to answer any questions you may have. So let's go a little bit back to history. Methods have been focused only recently. The journal Nature Methods was actually started in 20 2004, and there was a lot of skepticism even in Nature publishing group around launching Nature Methods, because they said they publish research and nobody was going to read just method, and this could dilute their brand, and it would be impossible to fill a journal's page with just method and so on. So there was so many skepticism and comments over that. However, as we all know, Nature Methods was a huge success and continue to be, but it is interesting to think about the skepticism of giving method independent credit as recently as 2004. So there are what is really striking is that the skepticism, the dismissiveness of method seems a bit irrational, because publishing methods can be extremely impactful. For example, back in 2014, the journal Nature compiled a list of most highly cited paper based on uh, based on the data provided by the Clarivate, which owns the Web of Science. a database that includes 98 million papers dating back to 1900. This list of most cited papers, which was updated in April 2025, is dominated by laboratory technique. The three most cited papers of all techniques, and each of them has more than 200,000 citations. Like you can see that. So, yeah. So, if we now look more recently, within the last 10 years or so, there was a lot of journals now. There are like lots of journal now focusing on and publishing protocols and method. Some examples are shown in the slide, and I don't think the list is exhaustive. Uh, the big publishers like Nature Groups keep expanding their portfolios of method centered journals like Protocols. 2 years later, they launched Nature Methods and then BMC Method. They also recently acquired Protocols.io, so we are now a part of Springer Nature family. Also, other publishers like Elsewhere have launched Star Protocols and Method X, and there are some other independent initiatives like Jove, Bioprotocols, and some others. It seems, uh, therefore, that we are now in the place where journals, funders, and many researchers have started to realize that it is not just a code on and data that should be sharing. In that sense, you might recall that in it was in the late 90s when we started to move away from the please contact authors for code and data to use specialized data and code repositories like GitHub, Diet, Figshare, and Open Science Framework. And although methods have been playing catch up, sharing them is becoming the norm, and you have now more choice on where and how to communicate those methods, including us at the protocols.io. So there is a shift in how people see and value methods. We are now seeing this mirrored in the open science movement. Historically, open science movement has focused on the open science publication, data, and codes. We are seeing more awareness about data sharing, method sharing. We are beginning to see the policy recommendation for method sharing, such as ProMap, promoting the reusable and open method protocols from the European Commission. And also, UNESCO recently recommended on the open science as well. So I would like to also highlight this year in January, we celebrated the fourth annual Love Method Week, which was focused about the importance of methods for those of you who did not join us, we had a lovely panel of editors and the top journals for method myth busting, and I highly encourage you to check out this as well. And the link will be shared with the slides, so you don't have to worry about that. And so that brings me from the history of method sharings to protocols.io. If you are here, you probably know that we are a workflow tool and open repository for sharing methods. We launched protocols.io in 2014 with a mission to make it easy to share method details before, during, and after publication. For those who are not familiar, there are two sides of protocols.io. So one is the open access method, sharing repository that has free to read and free to publish protocols and over 20,000, 25,000 protocols at the moment. All of these protocols republish with the CC and BY license, which means that they can be distributed or built upon as long as the original author is credited. We also have a private collaboration tool with over 87 private protocols, which allow users to securely create, share, and optimize protocol within their team and organization. So protocols.io is built for modern science. When you can share your protocols, it is not like static. When you share or use protocols.io, it is not static like Word or PDF. It is a dynamic and adaptable and interactive platform. You can run protocols from your cell phones or computer. You can upload the images and you can upload the videos as well. You can visualize and track how other reuse your work, such as copying and making a fork or making a version. Making a fork means uh, for making you can also the sorry you can visualize yeah sorry so you can visualize and track how other reuse your work, such as copying, forking, and making new versions of the previous protocols. You can also comment and discuss and view public comments and discussion between the researchers and the authors. And with the protocols.io, you can submit for peer review and get the DOI for your protocol publication, allowing you to share the method in a citable way. So I'll go through some of the publishing options, and you can also view our help site where here, if you want to read more, you can because the platform is very flexible and there are several ways to go about it. On our protocols.io, researcher basically publish protocols in two main ways. The one is the publish standalone method, or by linking protocol to research paper. The researcher who published with us using standalone method are still citable and available to be used by the others, but not necessarily linked to that author's own manuscript. And those link protocols to research papers have detailed method that support the finding of their manuscript. And today I'm going to focus more on directing, citing, and journal partnerships. So those who have already used the site, may look familiar to you. When you look at the protocols you own, you have many options to share your protocol, and you want you to and we want you to be transparent throughout the process. So there is a option one, to publish. Make a protocol immediately publicly available with a DOI, where you have to follow the workflow to provide the author and the funder etc information. Like this workflow you can follow. Even if you click on publish, it will not get immediately published. You can always fill this information and then it will get published. So there is another option, reserve DOI, that you can cite in your manuscript without having that protocol to be public immediately. It will also generate the private link which you can share privately with your team or editors, or allow others to view it before it is published. And I would also like to mention here that if you reserve a DOI, that protocol will remain private. But if we find that DOI in a published manuscript, because you might have forgotten to make it public at the time of the manuscript publication, so then that protocol will be published and will be publicly available. And you can also post as a draft. So to make a preliminary version of your protocol public without a DOI, and you can sign the protocol to make your protocol uneditable without making it public. And there is also peer review options to discover how you can include your protocol in an article to submit for the peer review process. So I want to talk quickly about the direct citing device in the papers. So here is an example of modular publishing, where you publish discrete research output and bring them all together in one manuscript or the publication. So here is a nature communication paper, where you can see in this data availability section, there are three research outputs. One is the expression construct that is submitted at gene. The another one is the protocols.io. Where is my icon? Yeah, protocols.io. So that they have deposited at the protocols.io. And the another one is molecular structure, which they have published in the protein data bank. So, and the people responsible for these individual outputs are now able to get the appropriate credit. I'll show how. Like, if you see this example, uh, this is from the same paper, so we can see that. So, the author in this manuscript listed as fourth author in the manuscript of the primary protocol developer. As so she's listed as the first author in the protocols.io because she was the primary protocol developer for that. So she got the that credit which she deserved for this protocol creation, which she can now list in her on her CV or can track the metrics of that protocol. So she could credit herself much better than the manuscript. So there is another example in addition to the credit. The another important difference between paper and the protocol is the method transparency difference differ across the publishing methods. For papers, very often they are subscription based, and the people are not able to access the methods if they do not have the access to the manuscript. But you have deposited the protocols at the protocols.io, people are able to view the protocol as it is open accessed. So as I mentioned before, we have multiple journal partnership which started in 2021 with PLOS One and has been expanding since then. These journals welcome submission of for peer review. So these journals welcome submission for the peer review. The key is to whether you should pursue this path. If you have a research paper associated with the protocol that is suitable for publication in one of these journals, and if you do have such protocol, then in that case I would really encourage you to visit this journal's website, where you can read the guidelines of the individual journals to understand what kind of publication these journals accept. So, there is a nice example of authors who have gone through the process and found it was very impactful for them. Let's say for review one, I am from a small country in Latin America, and this made me famous in my country. Super excited to share my first even author and solo peer reviewed paper. This is my first paper as a senior author. So I would like to mention that these protocols have got peer reviewed method batch, like we can see here, here uh, on our website. Some of also published on the partnered. Some of which like these protocols have also published in our partnered journals. So there is one of those, as I mentioned in PLOS 1, there is a one lab protocols, where you can see that in the materials and methods section, you can find the link for the protocols of that protocol on that plus one website, which can take you back to the protocols.website. And on the protocol.website, you can find the paper of that link where that protocol is mentioned. And they have also mentioned there is a peer reviewed method, so on that protocol. So you can always link back the protocol with the paper. So similarly, we have an example with the BMC method in our another partner journal. You will find the protocol link on the protocols and material and procedures section. And when you go back to protocols.io, the protocol will have the peer reviewed badge. And if the editor confirms it was the peer reviewed, and also will have the link back to the protocol to the paper. Similarly, we recently partnered with Nature Cell Biology as well. So if you're interested in hearing more about getting your protocols.io protocols peer reviewed, we ran a session at Love Method Week on this very topic, where there was a panel of editors from the journal that have partnered with us, and also the authors who have gone through the process of getting a protocol from the protocols.io peer reviewed. You can scan the QR code and follow the link in the slide that will be sent around later, so that would be really beneficial if you're interested in that. So I will quickly walk us through the case studies. So I have previously showed this example of PLOS one protocol, which I mentioned is linked both through the PLOS one article, and when you come to the protocols.io, you can link back to the protocol manuscript as well. So this is really fun and interesting to discuss, I would say, because sorry, because you're able to have an evolution of method which is transparent and trackable throughout the research and publishing process. Here is an example of how like what happens in practice. This is a timeline, this timeline is a publication associated with this protocol here, like this protocol, which is a isolation of cov2 RNA from wastewater, which published on protocols.io on around October 2020. This was the first version published, and in April, author has made few changes to upgrade the protocol in April and made the second version. And we can see in May it has been published in the PLOS one. And later, after next year also, the basically the scientists could make the version 3 to make the more improvement in September 2022 of the same protocol. So anyone goes to the protocol link present on PLOS one can be informed that there is a new updated version of the protocol is available on protocols.io, and the same way that protocol can be updated or built upon in future at any time. So here is an example where author talks about how publishing protocol on protocols.io improve his visibility and opportunity as an early career researcher. Another really good thing that I think this is protocol has done to my career is the recognition it gave me. I was lucky enough to have been invited to lectures and practice sessions at various universities. So you are able to get the recognition by publishing, and this is really easy to track on matrix tab on protocols.io. So here, if you click on the matrix tab, you can see how many people have viewed your protocol, how many people bookmarked it, and how many make the forked out of it. So basically forking means which they have made their own version of the protocol using your protocol. And also you can see that this protocol has many view than the paper. So it happens because they are more accessible and more often used by the scientists day to day. So and they are freely available. So this can sometime happens that the protocol gets the more views than the paper itself. So as I mentioned earlier, there is a visibility across discipline as well. So this the same author has said that also, although my PhD was specific to a time period in a region, I managed to add this methodological aspect that sort of went past those boundaries. So he could make it more discoverable. So there is a really good example in practice where there is a paper which used RNA extraction in the three spine stackback parasite was published, and someone tweeted saying that they are looking for some one with experience doing RNA extraction from primary cortical neuron culture, which is completely different model organism. And someone again linked it, saying them to the RNA protocol from that paper, this paper, and even from a different model, even if like it is from a different model, now they're able to build their own protocol for their own research. So like that's how, even if something is coming from a different organism, you can use that as a template as and build your own protocol, or you can use the same protocol and you can edit it and like fork it and make a new version of it. So there are multiple things which you can use on our platform protocols.io. And there is another example of how publishing on protocol IO can connect you with other researchers. This processor mentioned that 80% of my recent collaborations have been a direct result of sharing our protocols publicly on protocols.io. So there is a lot of visibility that comes from sharing on protocols.io because people find these protocols independent of research papers. This means that publishing on the platform is another avenue for people to understand and connect with your research. So people ask, like most of the time, like people have asked us. I have published paper over the last 5 years and actually have a method associated with those that I could share in more detail. Can I still do it on that protocols.io? So to that, our answer is absolutely yes, you can do that because people publishing protocols standalone on the platform all the time, and you can do that later, no problem. So, but if you want them to be linked to your previously published research paper, you can do that as well. So there is no limit, like, or the timeline which where you cannot publish your protocol even if you have already published your research article. So you can add this. So if you have not published, you can add the citation into the description tab while making your protocol, and you can also add a disclaimer that saying that please remember to cite the following publication along with this protocol. So it can work both ways. You can either publish first the protocol, or you can publish the or the paper is already published, then you can also add that protocol in details on our platform. Yeah. So some people have already asked us, is it a publication? What if the protocol I'm using was really developed by the someone else? So in our view, if it is, like, it is okay to put on our platform, but as with any research output, you should provide citation and proper credit to the original developer. So this is an example like someone has done. They said that they have an original paper that is they are adapted or from the highlighted other sources that they have incorporated into the protocol. So while making your protocol on the protocol.io, there is a reference tab where you can add all the required references. People can always claim authorship later if they see that their work which they have published has been put up on the site by someone else. We always encourage you to like reach out to the original authors if you want to put someone else's works on protocols.io. As on it takes a minute, like take a minute to at least send an email and see if they are okay with that, or and perhaps they want to learn about protocols.io and put it up on the site by themselves. So you have to make sure what the original author wants. So there is just a quick highlight I would like to give about the protocol that protocols.io have been encouraged by lots of organizations. As people are becoming more and more aware of method sharing, they are realizing that we need these repository, and protocols.io can serve one. So I talked about some of our journals are partnered with us, but over 500 journals recommend protocols.io during manuscript subscription. So there are many funders that require or recommend protocols.io in their grant guidelines and policies. And if there are a lot of institutions that have campus license to allow for more reproducible research and publications. So I can only cover this much today, and there are a lot of useful places to get help on our website. We also run a lot of different webinars, like almost 3 times in a day across the different time zones, which you can find on our website, protocols.io/webinars. And you can also watch the previous webinars which we have already uploaded in the past webinar section. And if you have any specific queries, or the you are struggling with any issues, you can always request a one-on-one personal demo at protocols.io/help plus slash demo. And there is a, if you want to request a dedicated webinar for your team, for your for your institution, you can always email us on info@protocols.io to arrange. And you can always watch the tutorials. We have almost 1 or 2 minutes short videos on our website which can help you out with a small thing, how to upload, how to use the protocolify, how to add the steps. So there's a lot of tutorials are also available on our website. And you can always explore the help center, which we have FAQs and multiple things. And at the end, please submit the feedback, or you ask a question on protocols.io. You can click question in the bottom left corner of the file manager to submit your query and feedback issues. So I'll stop now sharing my screen and take time to answer the questions. If you have any, if you think anything after the webinar also, that is fine. You can always write me at himanshi.yaduvanshi@springer.nature.com, or you can write on our website, on our email info@protocols.io. From where, like, one of any of my colleague can respond to your queries. And there is a feedback survey for this webinar. If you, and there is a link also I'm attaching. So if you have any suggestions or the comments you want to make about the webinar, please feel free to do that. That would be really helpful for me to make it more advantageous for you. So I'll stop recording now.